Well, welcome everybody. Welcome to today's ZENcast. Hope everybody's doing well. Thank you for those that are joining us. It is April 18th and happy to be here. Today we are doing a ZENcast live MSStore application deployments with ZENworks. In May, we're going to be analyzing more logs. You may be asking, what is ZENcast? And ZENcast is basically a online presentation of anything ZENworks. It's for ZENworks admins, ZENworks community, anybody interested in ZENworks and what it might do and how it may perform. We have these recorded, so you have them out on the Open Text Support and Training YouTube channel, so you can go reference them later. We do have some today's presentation. If you want to download it, I just put it in chat. Feel free to log into chat so that you can, one, subscribe, get notifications, put in comments, and chat with us live so we can give you answers on the spot. Otherwise, if you're watching this video, you'll be able to check the description for any links and references, okay, to be able to download this presentation and anything else that might be available to you through this presentation. All right, we have some tidbits and crumbs, new TIDs that came out showing here. So downloading this presentation PDF is probably pretty valuable if you're running these particular systems so that you can actually click on the links and get to them. But there are things like the VM sandboxes and what we cover for a particular vulnerability, which we're not impacted by it, but at least you get the feedback of what's going on for these different TIDs that are here. The official 2020 U3 959 FTF, how to create a bootable USB boot CD drive, not boot CD drive, applying PRUs and so forth. Some of the bits that we have is there's a ZENworks collaboration and forum. If you're out there in the UK, check this out. It's a open text ZENworks and collaboration forum that's happening on April 25th, so next week. So be sure to attend that and see if you can attend and get some more details and visit people face to face. We're also, the ZENworks and Windows Store Apps is a support tip that was presented by Craig, and it's out there under the community. I'll go ahead and log in so you can see it. Another thing that's came out this week, survey. It's $50 gift card just for filling out a Zen survey. I'm sorry, $25 gift card for just filling out a ZCM survey. And that particular survey, the first 50 people get the $25 gift card. I was told that it hasn't reached that limit yet, so dive right in. Couple of blogs out there, and then as you know or may not know, the ZCM 2020 Update 2 life cycle ends April 30th, end of this month. So you go out to this particular page, you put in ZENworks, and it'll show up down here. If we highlight ZENworks 2020, we could see that it's support ends. So be sure to get that updated to Update 3 if you can. Contact support or myself or us PMs, and we'll make sure we can get you the right resources to get that updated. Participate in a Gartner UEM quick questionnaire. That would be very helpful. It's about UEM, and I don't know what the questions are, but you can feel free to go on out there and fill that out to help their questionnaire. Probably ask what you use, how you use it, and so forth. And ZSD with ZCM integration, add port to IP address. So different things here, different links that you could click on so that you can get to those details that might be new to you, you might not be aware of. Let's recap last week. We did ZCM ZenInfo log analysis, the benefits behind them, running them, some of the tools you can use, and what's in the results files. There was a bundle that you can download, and the Notepad++ language file, which when you open up the log file with Notepad++, with that language file enabled, it will start colorizing it for you. It'll make it nice and pretty, and be able to zero in on those things that you're actually searching for. So look into that and be aware that those are available out there. You also find them in last week's ZENcast description of the recording. Okay? All right. So today's agenda, I'm happy to announce I have a colleague and friend in the Backline tech support, Craig Wilson, and he's here to tell us a little bit about MSStore applications. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, Craig, so you can. I'll do the slides for starters. And Craig, are you there?
Yes,
There
I'm
he
here,
is.
so I can go ahead
Perfect.
and
Yeah, let me share my screen just so
go.
you can see a couple of things that we're doing here. Let me close this out. And so a few things you wanted to talk about was a demo with 2 different apps, apparently, brief discussion of WinGet and example bundles, along with some links down there. So um, let me see what else we have. So go ahead and explain through this slide, and I'll just advance them as you go.
Okay. So let's see. So the basic idea is we've had requests from customers to deploy applications from the Windows Store for a couple of reasons. Some applications are only available from the Windows Store, and sometimes it's just easier from a bandwidth perspective if you have a home user. So if you want to deploy Firefox to someone who is at home, it's easier to do it from the store than it is to do it from your internal servers. And so I built a couple applications that can show each of those use cases.
Excellent.
So,
So you're going to cover some of the app benefits, like you mentioned, some
yeah,
applications
well,
only in the
and
store. Yep. Go ahead.
I just discussed those two main ones, and also cover a little bit about WinGet. Um, WinGet is a tool from Microsoft. It's open source, and going forward, it's going to be their go-to method for managing Windows applications.
Gotcha.
So it has some features today, and it will have more features tomorrow and next year. So a lot of times we might be thinking, well, what about this or what about that? And well, it's basically something that's in progress and will be growing and becoming more popular over time.
So it's evolving. Excellent.
Yeah, so it's an evolving tool, um, and it'll be installed on all your PCs already, assuming you have a relatively current update, and it gets updated with Windows updates. You can download it directly from GitHub for the most recent version. So if for whatever reason there's a bug and you want it fixed before the next main Windows update, you can do that. Or if for whatever reason your PCs are intentionally older for Windows updates, you can just download and install the WinGet itself.
Excellent. All right. And there's some references here. You could go ahead and share your screen if you're ready to demo.
Sure. Okay.
I'm going to give you
So
full screen. Stand by a sec. And we'll go full screen so we have you. And I was going to go even bigger, but yeah, go ahead.
okay. So I figured the best place to start was just showing it in operation, and then we can go back and cover what it does. The first one is just some application DigiTrack. Honestly, I'm not sure what this is, something about GPS, but one of my customers needed to deploy this to all their desktops, and it's only available from the store. So he would contact me to find out, well, how can I use ZenWorks to do that? And so I'm deploying that now. And so it installs and kicks off. Uh, and the kickoff is actually a separate action. It's not required. It's part of the install. And then I'll go ahead and do the same with Firefox. So it will install and eventually launch and also naturally launch to the ZENworks communities as soon as it's done.
And so this will actually appear in the start menu and I mean, it's
Yes,
installed, just the app from the store.
yes, it's installed. And
Here it is.
when we go to the start menu, and these will actually appear slightly different on the start menu. The mobile is a non-standard shortcut. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to actually see if I can try to drag it to the desktop for later, because when you look at it, it doesn't actually point to an executable
Ah,
easily. So, which makes things a little tricky later on. Firefox is your standard Firefox app. Some Windows Store apps actually go into a protected folder in Windows that you cannot access directly as a user.
as
So,
administrator or
that,
doesn't matter?
well, yeah, you can probably do it as administrator. It's tricky. I've gotten in there, but it's by design. It's not. You're not supposed to be in there for the normal person.
Gotcha.
So it's supposed to be Windows controlling it. But yes, you can get in there as an administrator. So now I have. Let me show these bundles. Now I have them set up. Now the oops. So I go to my bundles. I got my Windows Store apps, and DigiTrack is my first one. And it's a fairly simple one. The main one here. All it does, it just calls winget followed by store app, which is
Variable.
and then passes a couple parameters, accept source agreement and accept package agreement. That way there's no problems and it's
Oh, I
silent.
see.
And up here in my settings for my application, I created a system variable where I defined store app. And that's just the name of the bundle. So when I pass that
That's
in,
out on
there
MS Store.
is yeah.
Okay.
So there is and now I'm forgetting how to get that information, but there is if you run winget, but what you can do uh to get this information, normally on my test machine, I would install the application and then there's some winget command line parameters to see all the installed applications. And then you can get either the name or the ID. In this case, this DigiTrack LWD Mobile is a store app name, and you can use either one. But I'll see if I can figure out how to do that really quickly because I knew how, but I'm not remembering exactly right now. Let me just see here. The winget. Give me install search list. Winget list. And that will list all the installed applications. So if I'm trying to build a bundle, I can install Firefox or Winget mainly from the store app, which you will find here. But oh, sorry, but tabs aren't working for some reason. But yeah, so there is the name, and then there's the ID, and I could have used either one to install that.
Gotcha.
And it's just Winget list. So
Now that list
and then
is the list of all the apps out on the MS Store?
no, that's on my machine. That's what's
Okay.
installed on my machine. So if I go to Winget list, that lists what is installed on my machine. So
Okay.
what you'd want to do is go out to the Windows Store, search for what in the store for what you want, install it, and then you can find the details about the app by
Perfect.
just running winget list. So yeah, so I can and I just find it in my installed apps, and then I could use either the ID or the name to install it.
Excellent.
So, and then now that you have this bundle, and this is installs per user, because some bundles install per user. This has no special rights, so this is for store apps that are designed as a per user app. And then you can just copy this bundle and then just go in and update the value for this. So if you had a different store app you wanted that was a user store app, just change the value here and you're all set.
Now, I noticed it had
Now,
on the
go
system
ahead.
variables, I noticed it
Yes.
had the module was LWD mobile, but the Digitrax is in here as a variable. Is that because
Um,
that's where you found it? Was in Digitrax folder?
yeah, so it just works. It's a little different, but I guess either must have worked.
Okay.
So yeah, and it might have changed over time or something. I don't know. So let's see here. Let's and
I see you
okay,
have a
yeah, and
max
then
wait for Windows install service also in there. Sorry to
uh,
interrupt.
and those might be some default zone settings. Um, yeah, the first one is something you generally don't want to use, but that's for ZPM for lab
Correct.
devices.
Correct.
So, and the other stuff was actually um, I didn't put there, so it must have been
Must
part
have
of the
been
basic
system.
install.
Yeah, because it's inherited.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Now some other actions in here are a little interesting. As you note, um, this application is kind of strange. There's I can't use ZENworks to call the exe directly because I don't know what the exe is called, and it's in the store app folder. So how am I going to launch this application? So from my ZENworks, what I'm doing, I first created a folder just called Store Shortcuts, and then it gets really crazy. And I will give more details in another cool solution article on this. But what I'm doing is I'm creating a shortcut file. So what I did is I basically used PowerShell to read the LNK file, all the bytes. Basically I did a base 64 encoding of the LNK file. So it was an encoded string, which got this value up here. And then I used another PowerShell command to actually create the file in the shortcuts folder. Now, and the reason I did it this real fancy way is because I wanted this bundle to work when the user had absolutely no connection to any content server. I could have, put the LNK file in the content repository and delivered it, using content. But I wanted this bundle to be completely independent of needing to access any content. So basically, so long as my PC had access to the Windows Store, this will install without any contact to any ZENworks server, so long as the bundle is already deployed.
Excellent. Okay.
Now, another tip for deploying LNK files, if you don't want to get real fancy, is don't use the install file action, use the install directory action. Because when you do an install file, ZENworks actually tries to read and process the LNK file, and things go a little crazy and don't quite work right. So what you want to do is just put the LNK file in a directory and then do install directory, and it'll copy down without this.
Gotcha.
And I'll have more articles later on how to basically, MD5 or
Sure.
base 64 encrypt, how to use base 64 encryption or encoding with PowerShell to move to do some interesting things. But yeah, and then under launch, I just have a run script that launches the link file, and I actually used a bat because it was hidden.
So you basically converted the encrypted LNK file and created your own
right,
to
yes,
run it.
yes. So I use PowerShell to read, to get the base 64 encoded value for the shortcut.
Gotcha.
And then I used another PowerShell command that inputted that created the link file. So I created a file based on the
Output.
base 64 encoded value of the file. And this way I could deliver it without needing any content because it was part of the app data of the bundle. Yeah, and that was basically cached offline. Obviously, you don't want to do that for big files, and since this is not much more than a very, very small file, that's reasonable. You're not going to deploy Microsoft Office doing this.
Sure.
But just for a simple link file, it works well. And then so now the other store app is Firefox, and this one gets a little trickier. The problem is with Winget. Winget is designed to run as a user and not as system. And there's another caveat. If you run PowerShell as a user, that user needs to have logged on to Windows at least one time, or it just won't connect to the store properly. It gives you stuff like, oh, you need to accept the license and stuff. So apparently the process of just logging into Windows the first time as a user does all of that and sets it up. And the reason why I'm saying that is because Dynamic Administrator will not work. So if you try to create a Winget bundle to run as Dynamic Administrator, you'll always fail with a license error because the DAU users have never actually logged into Windows as a normal person. So your two options are running it as user, which is how the Digitrack mobile worked. But some applications need to run elevated because where and how they install, or you want to do a per system install. So, and Firefox is an example of one that needs elevated rights to run. So there is some scripting. Okay, and actually we can ignore the first action, install update Winget. That's just legacy when I was doing some other things to help manage Winget, but I decided for simplicity purposes to do that separate. I'm going to have other bundles that show you how to install and configure Winget, but I just didn't want to remove that one legacy thing just to make sure it didn't have any impact. So for the Firefox, when you try to run Winget as system or you open a system command prompt, it won't find Winget because Winget won't really be registered under the system process. This is something that Microsoft is probably going to fix in a future version so that Winget will just work automatically as system, but that's not the case today. So there's basically a script that searches for Winget underneath. Winget gets installed here, but the exact location can vary as it gets updated. So what we need to do, we basically just search through this directory to find Winget and set the variable. And again, this is nothing you need to worry about. And then the key part, again, is just the same thing we did before, except in this case, I use the ID instead of the name, just so you can see both methods. So it just calls Winget system, which is a variable I defined here because I searched for Winget, found the most recent version, and set it to a variable. And now I just call Winget with the installation saying, please install this ID number and accept all the agreements. And just like before, yeah, and then just like before, I go into my settings, system variables, and my store app is Mozilla.Firefox, which again, you can get from when you install Firefox from the store. You can do a Winget list, and then you'll see that name. And then under the install launch, this is just more of a standard one, because since it installs the broken files directory, I can just call it directly. And then obviously give it a command line parameter to start the one that I want. So yeah, so what you can do, these sample bundles are available out. There is a couple. I have an article out here that describes most of this stuff. If you go down to the end, you have these bundles are available there. So what you can do is just make a copy of those bundles, and then anytime you want to install something different, you just go into the store app variable and put in whatever value you want, and you start replicating it.
Well, that simplifies it.
One thing and then one thing I want to do, and I'm probably going to do in the future, and I've actually done this in my lab, but because it's more complicated, I thought it was easier to just show the simple versions where I have a bundle where basically, so if you could imagine with the only, like this Firefox bundle would only have the run script action, and I wouldn't define the Firefox value in here. And then I would have in my Firefox bundle, but all it would do is it would define the variable and then do like a bundle launch or bundle install for a generic. So I would have one bundle for installing Windows Store apps, as system, and then one as user. Because that way, if I ever have to example, let's imagine a world where I need to change the run script action because Microsoft makes some change to WinGet where I now need a new parameter. By doing it the way I'm doing it now, I would need to go back and fix every Windows Store bundle. But in the future, I'm going to create a generic Windows Store installer bundle that I end up calling with parameters. So that way, if I ever need to change how the Windows Store scripts work, I can do it in one bundle.
Excellent.
Yeah, but I figured that was just too complicated to demonstrate. So, and that's going to be an add-on article. Where
Sure.
Okay, now you see how things work, and now I'm going to show you how you can compartmentalize it so that if you ever need to change how the Windows Store, how the install portion works, you can do that for all your bundles in one place while just keeping the name of the bundles you're installing in a separate place. So, and then I believe, and then over here is GitHub. So basically, this is WinGet and where it's maintained. So if we go back, I think.
And you said this was open source.
It's open source, yep. And if you can go download it, and over here there's releases. So the latest release, I can jump to that, and then I just scroll down, and I can just go ahead and download this. And this is the bundle here, and then they got some PowerShell modules. I haven't had a need to download those, but it might give even more functionality. But for what I need, everything was just built in right off the shelf. But you might, if your PCs are not current, you might need to install this. But even with PCs probably close to 8 or 9 months old, as far as Windows updates, everything I demoed worked, even PCs 8 or 9 months back. So it's not like if you're not updated as of today. So now and then you'll notice this is an MSIX bundle, and which is, and it's similar to an MSI, but it's a different style bundle. Um, and so one thing I'm going to show in another update is how to deploy and manage, those type of apps with ZCM. It's not very difficult, but the interesting thing is there are some tools that let you actually pull down, Windows Store apps that you find here. Um, so I could maybe go get the source code for flux and download it to my PC, and they'll be the same type of Windows installer files, and then I can install them via a normal bundle. So the main use case for that would be if you have you're in a disconnected environment. Well, there's two. One, if you're in a disconnected environment, you can't get to the Windows Store, and the other thing is if there are larger bundles, you may not want thousands of users downloading it, so you want to cache the content. So yes, so it's a little tricky, but yeah, but there are tools so that we can download the source files and then install them like a normal bundle. But yeah, and I'll go over that in another article. Oh, and just if you've never played with this is a cool little app. I'm surprised it shows up. I ran on that. It helps, change the blue lighting on your computer and stuff like that, and adjusts throughout the day. But that's a side topic. So let's see. We got the GitHub. We can download that and you can read about that. There's my article, which go into more details. Yeah, and this is where you go to find apps. You install them manually, and then you can run winget list to see the details for the name or the app ID, which you then pass into winget. And I think that covers most of the stuff. I'm not sure if anyone had any questions
So
or I
far,
wasn't clear.
yeah, so far I don't see any questions in chat. I have a couple though. Not having used the online MS App Store, um, so when you do the Firefox, for instance, so that installs it locally, and then basically it's installed locally on your box, and will do its updates automatically when with those settings, right? So you don't have to
Yes,
go back
yes,
out and redeploy or anything.
right, yeah. So it'll automatically update, and that's the other advantage is you always get the current version of Firefox. So so instead of you having to go look to see if there's a new version of Firefox and constantly update your Firefox bundle, it will just always be current.
So we could leverage the store to keep it current. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. And this
Um,
is Windows 10 also, or just 11?
no, this is Windows 10.
Okay.
So, and I haven't tried it on older versions, but yeah, I think we say it's just to say, yeah, Windows 10 or later. I don't know about store
Okay.
apps on older stuff, but
Sure.
um, and for the most part, there was another question that's come up, and I haven't fiddled with it, but basically, a lot of times, what about if the store app is licensed? Generally, what happens is when you go to most of this stuff will come down as free, but if you need um, the licensed version, you might need to do an offline. Well, if it's licensed, it might just install, but it won't run without the license. But what works for most apps is there's tricks to go into the store and download the license file, and then you can copy it out. I haven't had to do that, but if that comes up, maybe someone can reach out to me and I can help them figure out how to do the license, or they can, search around on the web because, there is discussion about that. Basically, when you install and you're signed into the store, it will bring down a license file, which then you can copy among PCs. But you need to make sure that you're not hacking it. But There was also talk about Microsoft's going to do more work around licensed app and Winget in the future. So that's part of Microsoft's user story for Winget as well.
Well, everything's going to cloud distribution now, so this is obviously real helpful because, like you said, you don't have to rebuild your bundles each time. It gets you current state of that particular latest version. What if you needed an older version? Can
Um,
can you retrieve an older
actually,
version?
yes, you can. What there is, and I can probably show you this with the offline method, but there is um, uh, some company runs a website where you can basically put in the app URL, and then it shows you all the related downloads for that bundle. And this is what you do for an offline install. And generally, it'll list many versions of the bundle. So you'll see boom, 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 boom. You'll see like, oh, here's the current one, here's last month's, here's 3 months ago, here's 6 months ago. And so yeah, so that way you could find and install an old version, because generally on the store, when you browse the list of all the downloads, it lists both the current as well as historical versions.
Okay. Well, that's good. And so I presume installing those older versions, if you want to keep them that way, you have to do some sort of, I mean, how would you
Uh,
retain that?
yeah, so yeah, there's GPOs that control the ability to um, of whether or not the Windows Store will do updates. It might be kind of difficult to block updates for one particular application.
Hmm.
Um, I imagine it might get tricky. It might be possible, but you know that's probably
Again, it's evolving.
yeah. So yeah. I mean, I'm not because the idea is basically Windows stores do updates. I'm not sure if you can block Windows updates for a particular application. That may be possible. I would have to research that.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. Okay. Well, that's very
Yeah.
helpful being able to uh, ingest that information and how you've done that, and then the nice thing is just keeping that application current. So it updates itself as it goes. So and I presume since it's installed locally that when you launch it and there's an update, if the settings like in Firefox say check for updates, it'll occur. Can you modify those settings within the Firefox, or is that a bundle or a script afterwards?
Well, um, it probably depends on the well, like with Firefox, because of the way it doesn't actually install into the Windows Store app folder like DigiTrack does.
Uh-huh.
So it probably has its normal updater just like Firefox does. So the Firefox updates are probably going to update just like Firefox always updates now. It's not
Sure.
going to the after the install, it won't update from the store. It'll update like Firefox does now. It's just the uh,
Probably because it's a
initial
third
install
party,
that's always current.
right?
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
But there is we get but for but for the if you wanted to, you could. I'm sure I haven't tested it, but if you wanted every time I launch DigiTrack, I could potentially issue a command that I presume that would probably upgrade it automatically.
Sure. Yeah.
Um, so before it launched, it would double check, make sure it's not a current version. But it'll also do that in the background in general as well.
So
But
run
if I needed
run your list again.
winget list,
So I noticed that there's
yeah.
Windows C++,
Oh yeah, and yeah, oh
read
yeah, and see,
redist.
and winget is not a Windows Store only application. It can be for just about everything. So if you want to run winget on your PC now, in fact, you'll even see ZENworks on here probably. Uh, no, what you got Casa,
Yeah, I thought I saw it at the
so
top.
yes, yeah, and Casa say, and yeah, you'll ZenWorks will be in here.
There it
Yeah,
is.
endpoint security agent and stuff like that. But you notice for the source, it's not the MS store.
Gotcha.
So in this case, that was the store. I'm not sure what it says for Firefox, but yeah, Winget is a generic tool for managing uh, local applications. But one of the key points will be for the store, but it will be you can do a lot of other stuff. So yeah, and here it actually for Firefox it does say it's from Winget, but the maintenance service which installed is not part of that. But yeah. So we got just the core ZenWorks here, which is source wasn't ZenWorks, but it lists it. So yeah.
And
So yeah. So
I'm sure you don't want always to have that upgrade either, because, for instance, the redistribution 2015, you may need that particular one. So yeah, you want to control that.
yeah. But yeah. So and then if you but there are, and I haven't played with. The all the GPOs, but there is I guess they don't list any GPOs here. I thought they might, but yeah,
Policies.
uh, but there are. Oh, yep, there they are.
Yeah.
Desktop installer policies. Yeah, so you can import those and investigate what all those are as you play with it more if you need more control. But there's a lot of GPO settings around what you can or can't do with the store.
Excellent. Well, this is fantastic. This probably, are you getting more and more calls on this particular
Oh,
process, or?
oh yeah. Well, I'm getting a few. So now, but one of the reasons why I wanted to do this is I wanted to let people know it was even possible. A lot of times we might not get calls because people assume we can't.
Sure.
I mean, there wasn't uh, something on the ideas page for ZenWorks. Hey, you guys should be able to do Windows apps, and a lot of people like it. Yeah, that'd be great. Too bad ZenWorks can't.
Right.
And it just goes there. It's like, hey, can ZenWorks drop me to the store? Well, no, we can't. But
Right.
and so they assume, oh, well, ZenWorks, but it doesn't do store apps. Well, actually, it can. So
Yep. Just a matter of getting the right method.
yeah,
That's awesome.
yes,
Well, very cool. We look forward to seeing these new tips as they come, as this evolves, and you putting more notices out there, and maybe we can even have you back on when it
yeah,
gets more rich in the
yeah,
environment.
yeah, yeah. And I think I've got a link there, but I on the community I have you can link to my bookmarks, and as I create stuff, I put it there and link it there, and mostly my stuff, but sometimes someone else will put something out there that I like a lot, so I will link it as well. But as I add more stuff about the Windows Store and doing stuff with that, um, I'll update my links with that information.
Excellent. And we have
So
your links as well as your bookmarks in the presentation today.
yeah,
So as people download, if they're watching the recording or right now, they can get to those links and see what other details you have in there. So that's awesome.
okay,
Well, great. Well, thank you very much for your time today. This has been very informative, and shoot, simplifies ZenWorks deployment of bundles in a vast way for the cloud. I
yes,
appreciate
it
that.
does. So
Yeah.
yeah,
All right. Excellent. Well, that's fantastic. We appreciate your time again today, Craig, and we hope to be able to have you on again to do more of your tips, so that we can. It's always a joy to have you here showing stuff, because you have great information that you present. All right. I don't have anything else, Craig, on that note, but I appreciate your time, and you have a good week, and we'll be chatting with you soon, and we'll finish up our little broadcast. Craig, thank you. All right, as mentioned, that was Craig Wilson, Backline Tech Support, and he was showing us the availability of being able to do MSStore apps in detail from the MS Store through ZENworks. So it seemed like a pretty simple way to do that through his presentation. So again, these tips are here. You can go out to them as well, and if you're watching the recording, download this PDF in the description, and you'll be able to get to these links. And here are his bookmarks that he mentioned as well. Next is the schedule. We had last week ZCM analyzing ZenInfo logs. Today we did how to deploy apps from the MS Store. Remember, this week, inventory and reporting is going to be done on the webinar. You can sign up for that webinar out off the community page. Here's the past webinars as well as signing up for future webinars, and it's going to be inventory and reporting. May 2nd, we'll be doing more logs from ZSD. We'll analyze lifetime logs, and we'll also use another Notepad++ language, so it's easier to see what's going on in that log. We have some customer requests here. If you want to see the on-demand upcoming schedule, you could see everything that we've done in ZENcast as well as the monthly webinars and the upcoming schedule for what's coming in the ZENcast. Also, if you want to see the older ones, go down to near the bottom. There's a table of every ZENcast we've done, and we appreciate your participation through this. And these are, you can basically search. It'll take you right to the video recording or other details like to the webinar page and so forth. All right, I've started to filter in the webinars. Okay, if you have any requests for topics, please send them to zen@microfocus.com or paul.pedron@microfocus.com, and we'll be happy to put them in the queue, research them, and get you a presentation on the ZENcast. Now, just covering some of the versions, Unified Endpoint Management and Protection versions, we have Update 3 is currently out there. April PRU is available. There's a couple other things in here that you may want links to, so they're presented in the same presentation. They are looking, we're almost there for an imaging update, just so you know. ZRS 7.8 is out, ZSD 8.3.1 is out, and 22.9. Now we're going to be shifting our versioning to year and quarter, which is how OpenText does that. So we're going to be adopting that. So these versions will now convert over to those settings. So ZCM 23.3 will be update 4, 2020 update 4. And then we're going to have a ZRS 23.2 coming out in May, ZSD 23.3 with 2 form factor authentication in June, and then Hybrid Workspaces 23.3 will be out. Some other things in the community, just different links here for the lookbooks, versioning, for ZCM, ZSD, different videos and how-tos, as well as more TIDs that have filtered off the page. This is just a summary of some of those that have filtered off the page that may be applicable to you. Again, this community is for anybody interested in ZENworks or administration of ZENworks. We do have other live casts. There's a filer one the first Thursday, the group-wise enterprise messaging the second Thursday, webinars, ZENworks webinars on the third Thursday, and OES and iPrint on the fourth Thursday of every month. And the links are in here, so if you need to register for those because you have those products and you want to hear more about them, feel free to click on those. Gartner UEM does have a quick questionnaire out there if you want to fill that out so they can get an understanding and report back on any of the UEM type products. And then some events and recordings coming up. We did have the Weiden Germany TTP. We will be having a TTP USA in July in person in Provo. So be prepared for that. There will be weekend workshops for ZCM and ZSD. We did have a Meet the Experts ZENworks in March. So you could see some of that recording there, and then Bright Talk. The next ZENcast is May 2nd. We are going to be doing ZSD lifetime log analysis, and that summarizes our broadcast for today. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. I appreciate your time, and look forward to the next time. Again, if you have anything, shout it out. Give us a holler, and we'll be happy to put it on the agenda. Thank you very much. Don, Heiko, thank you again for joining us, and we'll see you next time.